the FBI had a civil rights division. So I assumed that maybe if I joined the FBI, I could fight for civil rights for my clients, but have money, someone else's money, that was backing up what I was trying to do. And I was also interested in fighting corporate crime, because I saw, experienced some of that with the going against insurance companies with my lawsuits, and seeing how corporations kind of work together. And I thought corporate crime, the white collar crime, is a really insidious kind of crime. And that's what I was interested in. So I told her of my interest, and all of a sudden I'm meeting these FBI agents. And things went wrong there, and I've described that in my blog, and might just touch on that a little bit more at a different time, but don't want to today. And after that I made a report, and then Laura Laughlin tried to push aside my report. She didn't want to take it at all. And then I continued to ask someone to investigate, and she did. And then I had the the supervisory agents come out to interview me. And after they interviewed me is when my car was then suspended, and all of those things happened. However, a couple of other things happened around that time as well. So I don't believe it necessarily had to do specifically with having met those FBI agents. However, they did defame me in their internal records, so it made it easier for people to feel that then they could do bad things and get away with it. So I was then, after that, commuting between, I decided I was moving to Washington, but I was going to be commuting back and forth. I felt kind of freaked out by a lot of the things that were happening in Oregon. I was also starting to have, after I met the FBI agents, I began having electronic malfunctions, and my printers kept being fried. I was having people specifically target and jam my electronic equipment that I used to make my motions and fax things to lawyers with, that sort of thing. So my business stuff was also being targeted. And I started commuting, and after I was commuting to Washington, and then what I forgot to mention, that preceded this unlawful suspension of license that was issued by Judge Warren, was this attorney, John Camp, who worked with Dick Whittemore. He sent me one of my relatives came up to me and gave me this blank manila envelope. And I said, "What's this?" And he said, "You might want to have a look at this." And so I opened it up and looked inside, and it was a letter from John Camp. There was no return address on the envelope. It was just this plain envelope. And then it was addressed to my grandparents. Actually, to my grandmother, to Beverly Bear, specifically. Or maybe it was addressed to my grandpa and Beverly Bear. I don't remember. There was some mistake in why it went to the wrong relative. And then it said, if you do not control your granddaughter during this lawsuit, we will take further action against you. It didn't say anything about legal action. It was a threat. It was some kind of a threat to prevent me. If you do not, it was basically like saying, if you don't prevent your granddaughter from appealing and pursuing us in court, we will take action, or we will do something to you. And what did my grandparents have to do with this? Nothing. And actually later, skipping aside just a quick second, this same thing has been done to my parents in my trying to appeal for my son later. If anyone thought that my parents were trying to help me or assist me in any way in trying to get my son back, they punished them and they threatened them. But okay, going back to getting this letter about, this threat to my grandparents, I found out it's a federal crime. It's actually a felony. And this was coming, it was right there on Bullivant House or Bailey letterhead. And so when that happened, and my grandparents were like 70 years old, have nothing to do with my lawsuit, I said that's crossing the line, and I'm filing for anti-harassment. And as soon as I said that, John Camp, that attorney, he then filed for anti-harassment against me. The same day. It was probably within a half hour to an hour after I told him that I was going to file for anti-harassment against him to keep him from contacting my grandparents. He contacted Judge Warren, Gerald Warren, the Catholic judge who he knew. He and Judge Warren's wife both worked for Catholic Charities, a mutual Catholic organization. And he had Judge Warren issue a restraining order against me. And I remember feeling so shocked by that. I was being targeted with migraines at that time. Not being treated with painkillers at all. I was assaulted brutally with these migraines. And then to have him do something like that, I should have expected it, but I think I was just shocked still. And at that point, that's when the judge, I continued to commute, and then that same judge is the one who put a false suspension on my license. So I believe that he was working with the other individual to keep me out of court and to obstruct justice. And I wanted to include that part, and I think I'm going to leave just there for now, which is just going over some other things I've already talked about a little bit. But the thing is then when I was trying to go back to my relative who had mistakenly received that letter from John Camp in that law firm, all of a sudden he died. So supposedly it was natural causes, but knowing what the military can do in triggering accidental deaths, it's really no different than triggering what looks like a natural migraine. The Department of Defense, if they want to, if there's somebody that is inside the group, they can kill you. They will kill you by triggering a heart attack or any other thing. They can trigger migraines. They can trigger heart problems. They can trigger things that look like strokes, like assault to the head looks like strokes, and all of that looks very natural. So after that, after I was stuck in the state, I was then going to speak to a reporter about my attempts to try to get my information from the FBI, Freedom of Information Act information from the FBI, because I was being stalked by police and treated badly, really badly all of a sudden. And I felt that I must have been defamed, and I was, of course, but I needed proof. The other thing that I guess I'll mention real quick is that when I did try to report my rape to the police, Detective Gross initially took that report, and he only dropped it after I was then going to potentially include Robin Bechtold in a rape complaint. And and when I was potentially going to include another person, and it was Robin Bechtold, he dropped it. So, possibly Detective Gross knew other people that knew. I mean, Robin Bechtold's brother, Nathan Bechtold, worked as a cop with the Portland State Police of Oregon. And it is very possible that he chose not to pursue the one rape investigation because they really were, either they were protecting him or they were trying to protect Robin Bechtold because they didn't want maybe a successful rape verdict on one thing to also then reflect on the next thing. And the Bechtold family was involved with knowledge of the implantation of microchips. So there's a lot going on there. And I will pick up from then being in Washington and in 2005 after my grandparents were threatened, and when I tried to go to the reporters, and I will talk about trying to go to the media tomorrow. Thank you for your time.